Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. I'm Marissa Herrera and I am here with Cora Hasegawa with her film, Grandma Obāchan. Let's take a look at a clip.
My whole life, my mom has told me that I look like a mix of my two grandmothers. My dad's mom, Kyoko, died when he was a young boy and I was never able to meet her. I don't know much about her, except that I was named for her. My mom's mom, Rosemary, died when I was 2 years old, and I only have a few fleeting memories of her.
Hi, Cora, welcome. It is so exciting to be here with you today. Congratulations on this incredible film. I really enjoyed it so much. There's so many beautiful stories and themes, especially being female and the stories of your grandmothers. And tell us about a synopsis for those in our audience that didn't get a chance to see it yet.
Yeah. So my film is very much about identity, as you said, as a young woman, being mixed race, and actually it's not a part of the story, but growing up in Oklahoma, identity is something I've always thought about. So I sat down and had a conversation with my mom and my dad to talk about my grandmothers, because both of them either passed away before I was born or when I was very young. And I kind of talked with them about some of these, I think, things that they had in common. My grandmother, Kyoko, my dad's mom, died when he was about 5 years old. And so my grandfather, Frank, experienced a huge loss. And similarly, my grandma, Rosemary, lost her first husband, Jack, when she was quite young. And both of them had young children. And so kind of seeing the impact of loss, and I think love in many ways on my family, was a really big part of it. And trying to kind of understand where I come from, and my own relationship with my parents and their relationship with their parents in turn.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I lost my maternal grandmother when I was 8. And I just think about all of the stories, that we never really got to experience. Were there any new discoveries in your process in doing those interviews with your parents that you didn't know about?
Yeah, there were a few of them where I think I knew more about Rosemary, my mom's mom, because she lived a lot longer and my mom got to know her well into her adult life. But yeah, talking with her and kind of, hearing her kind of honest, raw perspective on her mother, for me, that was kind of a new experience to do it in this format rather than passing like, hey, tell me a little bit about grandma, or, this reminds me of your grandma, so things like that. As for Kyoko, my dad's mom, I had, he told me some stuff growing up, but I didn't know a lot of these kind of details. I didn't know they had a dog named Peggy, or that she liked to play bingo and things like that. That it's interesting that my dad is, now he's obviously much older, but when he was 5 and she passed away, that those things have stuck with him throughout the years. And that I don't think if I'd ever made this film, I probably never would have learned that. And so I was really grateful that he shared those details with me.
It's beautiful. So the format that you used in this film, with the stop animation, the amount of patience that it must have to be able, to create all of these frames and all of this detail and the timing of it. What was that process like? And why did you choose stop animation as your way to be able to share this story?
Yeah. It was definitely a time-intensive film, at times quite maddening. But I felt like for me, I love animation. I've always really loved animation. I feel like it's able to convey things that a regular, like, straight film recording, you don't quite get that. And my film is very much about not just my representing my grandmas as they were, but the way that I've always kind of seen them, which is very much larger than life, especially my grandmother Rosemary. So trying to convey things that don't exist or maybe never even existed was really important to me. And I think animation is, for me, the best way to do that. And in terms of just like the time spent on making them, I was very much looking at all these old photos that we have. I had my mom send me, I think probably like 150 is probably, I think, where I was with, like, I found like birth certificates and old pictures, school pictures, pictures of my dad when he was a kid, pictures of my mom when she was a kid, pictures of, my grandparents that didn't even like really impact the film, but just spending hours looking at their faces. For me, it was very much a labor of love and trying to represent these people who I really admire, and find the best way to tell their story.
That's amazing. And now that all of that labor of love has been put in, into this beautiful film, and it's actually being seen by audiences. What has that experience been like, for you and for your family?
It's been completely surreal for me. It was made as a student film, and when I was making it, I hadn't really thought about submitting it to festivals until afterwards, and I was like, oh, that might be a good idea because I think I've made something that I thought was pretty good. We're all our harshest critics, and this is the first film where I was like, I think other people would want to see this. So I've really enjoyed, getting to have people, tell me that they really related to it for whatever reason. Maybe it's because they themselves had lost their grandmothers young, or that they had, a really strong relationship with their mom, or they were mixed race too. Things like that I feel like are universal experiences. I just shared my own individual interpretation of that. And for me, it's like some of the most meaningful things are people that I'm close to who tell me that they've seen it and they really enjoyed it, and then it meant a lot to them, because I felt like for me it like made me have a stronger connection to them more, and I feel even more like I have a nice bond with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And with short film, there's so much content that you don't get to put into the final product that your audience gets to see. Is there anything that any moments or any particular stories that you had to part with that you want to be able to possibly develop into something in the future?
Oh, absolutely. This is a film that I've been wanting to make for a long time, and I'm going to come back to these themes again and again in my filmmaking career. I just know it already. In fact, like not to jump ahead, but the next project that I'm working on is actually kind of related to it in some ways. I think I had in total about 2.5 hours of recorded audio for a 7-minute film. So I had to cut out a lot. One of the hardest ones for me emotionally was cutting out the story of how my grandpa Richard met Rosemary. He married her after the passing of her husband Jack, and that was my mom's dad, and the only grandparent that I was close to in real life. I had to cut him from the story because he just wasn't a part of this film, and that was really hard for me because I grew up loving him, and I still love him, and I miss him so much, now that he's gone. But I'll tell his story another way. And from Kyoko's side, a lot of things didn't get put in. One of the biggest ones is that actually a year after Kyoko passed, my dad's oldest sister also died of asthma, which is kind of, I think, was a huge impact on my dad, because he said that after Kyoko died, his sister had kind of become like his mother. So it was almost like the loss of a second mother. And how that impacted my dad and my grandfather and his brother and younger sister. Those are ripples that we can see throughout my entire family history, and how our relationships are formed, and how it, I think, really impacted my dad's family dynamic.
So in looking at that and having, you had that much footage and all of these incredible stories, sometimes even with the short film that is this labor, intense, a filmmaker will have a huge crew, right? Of people that are actually like creating the artwork or storyboarding or, moving things around. Was this a solo project that you took on by yourself as a student film, or did you have a crew that kind of helped with some of that labor?
I want to give credit to other people. I did have somebody who helped me with the sound mixing, and obviously my parents were involved, and I could not have done it or even narrowed it down as well without a lot of feedback, but all of the work was done by me. I had to go in and decide what was important, and I made all of the paper cutouts. But I would say, even though it was very much, I think, a solo project, that communicating with other people for me was really important so that I would not get sucked into it. And even if it was just I would, I was living with some of my friends at the time, and I'd run downstairs and be like, does this look good? You need to tell me that this looks good. Getting some encouragement, or even that harsh criticism of, this just doesn't look like what you think it looks like. You need to remake that paper cutout. That's really important. And I think that when you do a solo project, it's really hard to, sometimes you lose perspective.
No, and I think that that's really great to be able to share, because depending on the process it is, you get so pulled in, and it's almost being able to get that second eye, or an outside perspective of somebody who's going to be able to see it as an audience member, especially with something so personal, that you're able to stick to the story, but also be able to get some feedback along the way. And that's great for our new filmmakers that are going to be able to watch this interview. So are there any other best practices or philosophies that you've adopted now as a filmmaker that have helped you, and that you can share with other new filmmakers that are on their journey to share their story?
Well, I think, we're all in the process of learning as filmmakers. It doesn't matter if you're just 1 year into it or 6 years into it. Everybody learns something new from a process. And for me, this is definitely, I think, a film where I learned so many things. One of the biggest things for me was, I'm very much a perfectionist. I like for things to be perfect. I like to be completely satisfied with everything. And I will spend hours working on a very minute detail. And I had to learn to let that go a little bit with this. I had to let go and just be like, this may not be perfect, but it's good enough. And you need to let go of the idea that it's ever going to be perfect, or first of all, I would absolutely lose my mind and I wouldn't finish the film. So I think for me, that was a really important lesson to let that go. I think I also really learned to very much take risks. I think when I was initially kind of pitching this project in the beginning, a lot of people didn't exactly know what I was talking about or what I was really going to do. And I was like, let me just show you. And I went out and made paper cutouts, and I said, oh, okay, I get it now. So finding a way to really, I think, embrace your vision and just like trust that it's going to work out, for me, that was, I think, one of the first times I really bet on myself. And I think it really paid off for me.
It absolutely paid off, and for your audiences, because we got to experience this beautiful story that we could all relate to, and especially at this time. We are in the middle of a global pandemic.
Yes.
And so many of us are disconnected from our loved ones, and our families. And I think that the inspiration that this film really creates for your audience to reach out, and reconnect with family at this time, and be able to capture, those stories. That is a ripple effect. So thank you for inspiring all of us with your filmmaking.
Thank you so much.
No, it was so touching. What are you working on now? And what can we look forward to next from you?
Yeah, so I'm doing a couple of different things. One is I am continuing to do my paper animations. I am collaborating with Ryan Brown Orso, who is one of my former professors and advisors, and she's hired me to do some work for her for an upcoming documentary called All Bound Up, on the history of the bra. And I actually have a couple with me. And for me, I feel like it really shows, like, I feel like I've grown a lot, but I've been making some
Wow.
new things. So not people, but articles of clothing, I guess. So that's something that's going to be coming out soon, and that I've been collaborating with her on. Yeah, and earlier I did mention I am kind of returning to themes of family. I am in the pre-production phase, and I've been in it for a while, so I need to get going. The pre-production phase for probably another short, and it's going to be animated, but I'm going with computer animation rather than paper cut. Animation called, right now it's called My Uncle is a Japanese Walrus, kind of revisiting the story that was cut from Grandma / Obāchan about my uncle.
Oh, well, we are so excited. I know I am. Everyone, please check out this film. Cora, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations. Good luck on the rest of your journey. We know we have great things to look forward to, and we look back to having you here again soon. So on behalf of New Filmmakers LA and Movie Maker Magazine, we thank all of you for being here today, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.